Morning, everyone. Can y'all hear me? All right. I have the Houston pollen sinus excitement, so I sound a little bit more like Brenda Vaccaro today than I normally do. Those of you who know who she is, good job. Yeah, there you go. Hello, welcome to Houston Oasis. We're glad you're here today. My name is Terry Hibbert-Ismert, and I am the board president for Houston Oasis, and I'm very thankful that each one of you are here. More sound? You got it. I can project, even with my sounding voice. So today, I'd like to outline one of the tenets, or one of the things we follow, which is accept and be accepted here. And it's very important that we remember that, and that human hands do solve human problems, and that's my favorite because that's so active. It's so much more active than just thinking about something. So our music, will we start with music? Yes. Our music, as always, is Chelsea Beech. Chelsea is the rising star redefining top 40 with a jazzy feel. Her smooth vocals and vibrant energy bring a fresh, soulful twist to today's hits, blending modern pop with the elegance of jazz. Whether she's reimagining your favorite chart toppers or performing original tracks, Chelsea creates a sound that's both familiar and refreshingly unique, perfect for any mood. Let her captivating voice and sophisticated rhythms take you on a musical journey like no other. And with that, let's enjoy two songs.
Hi, y'all. I'm just doing originals for you today, and I brought a friend, and he's got some originals too. Hey, the mister, got a minute? I've heard that I am quite persistent. Got a job 'cause I can get it done. Look at me, this dress is fitted. Heard him say she gone and did it. Boy so fine that he can get it now. I like to take it to a crowded room. See the way they look at you. See how they want it, want it, want it. But I got it, got it, got it, got you. Sorry if I seem conceited, but I think I'm the girl you need, and I'd like to get you somewhere all alone. Seem to be a bit resistant. Maybe it's 'cause you're convinced if we do that I'll get you out your clothes. So let me take you to a crowded room. See the way they look at you. See how they want it, want it, want it. But I got it, got it, got it, got you. Place it back 'cause I can win it. Here's a cat, how do you skin it? Got some straw 'cause I could spin it gold. There's a magic to my madness, the antidote to all your sadness. Give me a crown and you can have it all. Or I could take it to a crowded room. See the way they look at you. See how they want it, want it, want it. But I got it, got it, got it, got you. I could take it on a busy street. See the way they look at me. See how they want it, want it, want it. But I got it, got it, got it, got you. Hey, the mister got a is she gone and did it now? Thanks so much. Thank you, thank you. This is one of his. It's called Mouthful of Sand.
As for them, they were all right. Well, I asked the doctor, then I shut my mouth. It was hot and the leaves were brown. I fell asleep and went to town, just waiting for a sound. We are just children on a playground, writing things down and running around. All alone in the woods on the ground, with a mouthful of sand. As for me, I was alright. Well, I asked my horse and she said nay, so we continued. I went to the ends of the earth or the trail. I don't know, I don't care, but I was there. Yeah, we continued. La-dum-bum-ba-da-dum, 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 la-dum-bum-ba-da-dum. We are just children on a playground, writing things down and running around. All alone in the woods on the ground, with a mouthful of sand. As for you, you put up a good fight. When you retire, you will have this to remember: picking up chairs and starting a lot of bar fights. With a chip on your shoulder and a hole in your head, I was wrong. La-dum-bum-ba-da-dum, 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 la-dum-bum-ba-da-dum. We are just children on a playground, writing things down and running around. All alone in the woods on the ground, with a mouthful of sand. With a mouthful of sand. With a mouthful of sand.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you so much, and we will hear more later in the program. Before I introduce Tish and the wonderful presentation she has put together, I just want to send some love to Kevin and to CB, because I'm amazed you're here. His husband, CB's in the hospital and has been all week, and he may have to leave early, but just know that we love you and we're here to support you in anything you need, okay? All right. Thank you for being here. That's really a lot for you to still be here today. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move to the community moment, which is a wonderful idea by Tish Perez, celebrating the pets of Houston Oasis, a delightful slideshow of our community's furry, shelled, winged, or otherwise pet companions. And we dare you not to smile.
Good morning. Can y'all hear me? All right. So I'm Tish. I've been coming since it's been about 9 months, and I've just been enjoying getting to know everyone. And I've noticed people love to talk about their pets and share pictures, and I just figured this would be a great way to just get to know each other more and kind of further our sense of community, which is, I think, a big reason why a lot of us are here. So let's see. So our first pet is Jojo. He is 4 years old. He's a Labradoodle. His owner is Jim Hubbard, and he says of Jojo, he's a royal pain in the butt, and I love him dearly. In the photo, he is seen wearing a collar of shame, which he misidentified as a life preserver. Very cute. We have Hildy, full name Hildegard von Bingen, age 6, miniature pinscher. Her mom is Jennifer Payton, and she says of Hildy, she was found at Palmer Church, hence the saint's name. When my son is home, her favorite place to rest is in the crook of his legs. Oh, and there's Hildy's cousin Spencer in the little Santa costume. Too cute. This is Ruby, age 6. This is Kevin's little pup. She's a shepherd mix. Favorite things, chasing a ball, sitting up and begging for treats or table scraps, biting the water as it comes out of a garden hose. I would love to see that. And Lincoln, a 100+ pound Great Pyrenees from the neighborhood. Go Ruby. This is Luna. The owner is Maggie Reeder. She says she was a stray that just walked in the front door and never left. She loves helping me with projects. Too cute. She looks comfy there. This is Zena and Coco. Her parent is Estella Von Chong. And Coco is the little one in that first picture there. Too cute. This is Scout, age 6, Australian Shepherd. His mom is Rachel Sears, and she says, Scout was born to be a working dog on a cattle farm, but he was not about that hustle. His owners had to rehome him because he was leading a small revolution, AKA persuading the other dogs not to chase the cows either, which is how I got him. I'm entirely grateful for his rebellious spirit. And I had the pleasure of dog sitting a Scout, and that he likes to go for you like butt first, so I had to share that picture. This is Sophie. She's age 16. She's a petite Burmese. Her mom is Paige Williams, and she says of Sophie, has lost all but 5 teeth and loves her heated bed when my lap is unavailable. Alas, she has wised up that those birds on TV are not really available. This is Nautilus, age 13, street cat, parent Emily Kremer. Favorite things and hobbies, Rice Krispie treats, bread, and inconveniencing others. Same, Nautilus, same. And then Apollo, age 17, orange tabby. Parent is Tim Wise. Favorite things and hobbies, sunbathing, chasing shadows, making his way into cabinets and drawers. And that top picture might win best photo of this presentation. So this is Professor Oak and Selena Kyle. Kitty's his parent is Jacob Atchison, and they are 3 months old. Look so cuddly. Okay, we have Aztec, Maya, Olmec, and Zapotec, also known as Zappy. Parents are Verena Kalhoff and Victor Snyder. They are redfoot tortoises. And they sent little video snippets. So vicious. I don't think I have the audio on here, I apologize. Getting some cuddles. And then here they are showing us how to eat healthy, eating a salad, looking like little hungry hippos. Very cool. This is Katniss. Her mom is Glory Reader, adopted from the Humane Society. And she says of Katniss, she worries that her humans will wander off and get lost, so she stays close and doesn't need a leash, but her humans do. I love her little Hufflepuff collar there. Too cute. This is Minu. Parent is Leslie Moore. She says of her, I wasted money on scratch pads and kitty beds, which she refused to go near. Her preferred bed and scratch pad is a coconut fiber welcome mat, which is now officially hers. This is Audie. Parents are Laura and Steve Fulmer. And I love how she's holding that ice cream cone like she's a human. This is my pupper, Lulu. She's age 6. She's a terrier mix. We adopted her in 2019. Her dad is my boyfriend, Chad. Her favorite things, fluffy toys, rolling in warm grass, and scooter rides with dad. She gets so excited when she sees that little baby Bjorn come out. And that's her friend, Sophia, giving her a little hug there. And we did have some pets that their owners wanted to just kind of share. They're no longer with us, but we do want to acknowledge, that they made an impact on our lives. So we have Hunter from Sarah Fishman, looking so handsome in his little cowboy hat. And then Estella, her dog Tequila, dressed as a handmaiden there. Lovely. So thanks for sharing your pets, guys.
Anyway, so without any further ado, I want to present Dr. Sarah Fishman. Dr. Fishman is the Morris Professor of History at the University of Houston, specializing in 20th century France with a particular focus on women, gender, and family life. Her first two books focused on World War II, and more recently, she's been diving deep into the post-war decades, currently finishing a book, Bridges to Feminism, Marcelle Auclair, Marcelle Ségal, and Women's Magazines on 20th century in 20th century France. Coming out in 2025, that'll have to be another talk. This talk draws on the research for her latest book. She received her bachelor's degree in history from Oberlin College, an MA in international relations from the University of Southern California, and a Ph.D. in history from Harvard. With no further ado, Dr. Fishman.
Okay, thanks everybody. That's nice to be here. I figured since I'm up after the pets, I had better do something to sort of keep up. So, the talk has nothing to do with the pets that you see on the bottom. I just figured I had to sort of transition you away from the cuteness. Okay, so this talk is Marcelle Auclair and Marie Claire from Advice to the Fight for Women's Reproductive Rights in 1960s France. So as Terry mentioned, I'm finishing this book on these two journalists. And Marcelle Auclair, Marcelle Ségal are not names that any of you would probably recognize, but many of you probably know their American equivalents. Let's see. It's not green. It shows red. Can I do it from the computer? From the keyboard? Sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, that's all. So. Oh, okay. Why isn't it going? What am I doing now? Oh, I'm sorry. Why do I have, I'm sorry. The next slide on the. Oh, okay, good. I'm sorry. That's me. Okay, never mind. You wouldn't think that I'd ever lectured in front of the I'm so flustered. Okay. Our equipment is clearly not the latest generation. Anyway, you might not have heard of these two Marcelles, but I'm assuming that people of my generation, maybe even a little younger. Oh, I need the mic. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm so sorry. People of my generation and maybe a little bit younger would know these two names, Ann Landers and Dear Abby, or Abigail Van Buren. And actually, when I was a kid in the mid-'60s, manifesting the curiosity about other people's lives that ultimately led me to study history, I read Ann Landers and Dear Abby every day when I was 9 or 10. I'm not a morning person, but I would get up early to beat my little pesky sisters to the table and have a little peace and quiet and grab the newspapers and read their columns. And so decades later, as I began to explore advice columns in France, I got to wondering about these two women, and I didn't know anything at all about them. So I began to poke into it, and everything I read about them just totally blew me away. Not surprised to find that they wrote under pen names. That's not surprising. But they were sisters. They were identical twin sisters. Yeah. Yes. This is Anne and Abby. Identical twins. Their parents were Abraham and Rebecca Friedman. They were Lithuanian Jews, or we call Litvaks. They had immigrated to the United States from Lithuania, which was then part of the Russian Empire. And for all who knows how, they ended up in Sioux City, Iowa, right? In 1905. Their daughters were born on the 4th of July in 1918, and they named them Esther and Pauline. But just so you know that they're twins, Esther's middle name was Pauline, and Pauline's name was Esther. I know. They broke all the rules. They dressed identically. They took violin lessons together. They shared a bed. When they started dating as teens, they would go either on a double date with two boys or sometimes with the same boy, of course, dressed alike the whole time. After school, they both enrolled in the local college, Morningside College, in Sioux City, and worked on the campus paper called the Campus Rat. Oh, actually, their column was called the Campus Rat, so clearly a gossip column. They both dropped out of college when they were juniors to get married, and of course, well, the wedding ceremony, they wore the identical wedding dresses. Their husbands had served together in the same unit during World War II, Mort, Phillips, and Jules Lederer. And like I said, they wore identical gowns. But a decade after the war, the two families moved to different cities. Esther moved to Chicago, Pauline to San Francisco. In 1955, Chicago Sun-Times advertised for somebody to take over a very popular column under the name Ann Landers. A journalist would respond to readers' requests for advice. So Esther applied for the job, and she got the job, and she kept the name Ann Landers. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, her sister Pauline, without telling Esther, pitched the idea for a column to the San Francisco Chronicle, made up her own name, Abigail Van Buren, and pitched that idea, and she got the column. So when Esther found out what Pauline had done, she was really pissed. She felt betrayed, and for 10 years, the two of them barely communicated. Pauline actually said after the fact, we never really completely broke off relations, and that the press had exaggerated their rift. Curious, I kind of poked around, and I found a 1958 Life magazine that described their break as, quote, this is a quote, the most feverish female feud since Elizabeth sent Mary Queen of Scots to the chopping block. Little exaggeration. Okay, in this case, nobody lost a head, and eventually the sisters reconciled. Let's see if I can make this work. Oh, no, going the wrong way. Okay, Esther and Popo. You got Esther and, no? There we go. Oh, okay. All right, so now you can see the twins. Okay, so eventually they reconciled, and by the time they got to their joint appearance at their high school's 50th class reunion, they were back to finishing each other's sentences. So they got over it. Okay, so not surprisingly for a sister republic, France also boasted a pair of influential columnists. No, there we go. Okay, they were not quite as intimately intertwined. They both shared a first name, but they weren't twin sisters. But they became equally renowned in 1950s and 60s and 70s France. They didn't write for daily papers. They both wrote for women's magazines. So Marcelle Auclair wrote for Marie Claire, and Marcelle Ségal wrote for Elle. And by the way, just on a side note, Marcelle's real name was Marcelle Cherchewski. Her parents were also Litvoks. And they ended up in France, escaping the pogroms. So I don't know what it is about Jews and advice, but I'll leave you to think about that, Jewish ladies. Anyway, okay, so they wrote for these two magazines, and this is the period of time in the 50s and 60s when they reached peak circulation. So they were really, really, really popular. Guides and counselors and confidants, they dispensed advice to millions of their followers. Okay, so again, aside from sharing a first name, I also began, as I was doing my research for the book, my most recent book, I was reading advice columns, and one of the readers, outside readers who read my manuscript said, well, who are these ladies who are, writing these answers? And I thought, I don't really know. So for a full answer to the question of who they were, where they came from, and why they were so influential, you'll have to wait for my book. But what I'm going to do is, because given the times that we're in right now, I'm going to focus on one of the two, Marcelle Auclair, and her fight for reproductive rights in 1960s France. So a little bit of background. Okay. Now, in France, contraception and abortion had been illegal explicitly since the Napoleonic Code of 1804. There were harsher restrictions were passed in 1920, just after World War I. First of all, France had been worried because its birth rate had been declining for a long time, where Germany's was booming. And second of all, they lost 1.4 million men in the war out of a population of 40 million, which is huge, right? And so, in that panic, they heightened the penalties. So 1920 law punished abortion and contraception and disseminating information about those two with fines and up to 3 years in prison. Why information? Anybody? How do women find out what to do when it's illegal, right? They talk. Okay, so now you've got Vichy coming along, right? The ultra-conservative collaborationist government that wants to get rid of the republic and go back to sort of more of a monarchy. And you can see the poster for the National Revolution. There's their new motto. Instead of liberty, equality, fraternity, they go to work, family, fatherland, which just doesn't have the same Zip. But anyway, and so they increased the penalty, and in fact, in 1942, they made the penalty, performing an abortion became a crime against the state and punishable by death, okay? Now, under that law, Vichy courts actually condemned 2 people to death. One of them, from what I can tell, was pardoned, or not pardoned, his sentence was commuted to life. But Vichy, under that law, did execute one woman, Marie-Louise Giraud, in July of 1943. And if you're interested, there's a book by Francis Spiner, which is, I don't know that it's translated, but there's also a Claude Chabrol film starring Isabelle Huppert that was made in 1988. Okay, so the penalty, the death penalty for abortion ended with the liberation in 1944, but the laws against abortion and contraception stayed on the books. Contraception only became legal in France in 1967. I know this suddenly goes against a lot of ideas about France as the sort of libertine, free sex place, but no, it was still against the law. Now, the start of the abortion rights movement in France is usually dated to 1971, when a leading weekly news magazine called the Nouvel Observateur published something called the Manifesto of the 343. Put together by Simone de Beauvoir, who's a name you might know, and Gisèle Halimi, 343 prominent women, the one name you probably would know would be Catherine Deneuve, signed a statement saying that they had had an abortion. Okay, and it was described as a thunderclap. It's usually seen as the start of the abortion rights campaign. And abortion was finally legalized in 1975. And recently, I don't know if you heard this, but the French put that into their constitution. Right. But what I discovered as I did my research is that Marcelle Auclair had begun advocating for women's reproductive rights in the late 1950s. And again, she was a leading voice of the magazine Marie Claire. That's an article from the Marie Claire. And she was also extremely well known for this very best-selling biography of Saint Teresa of Avila. So she's connected in the public mind with a women's magazine and with a Catholic saint. And I think in a way that made her activities maybe a little more surprising and maybe more powerful. I don't know. It's a question. So one of the things that she did when she worked at Marie Claire is that she didn't have a weekly column. Actually, Marie Claire was a monthly, but what she would do is women and men wrote to her all the time, and she would sort of compile issues that came up regularly and respond to those once a month in an article. And what she said that from the very first day that she started in '55, one of the thorniest themes was contraception. She said that in the 1930s, after she had 3 children, she'd traveled to England and taken advantage of their easy access to contraception there. And she said she couldn't understand the situation in France. The topic was taboo to such an extent that people did not even dare talk about it, she said. Of course, as I mentioned, the law targeted talking about it. Okay, but she got so many letters on the subject, and the pain that they expressed led her to tackle the topic in Marie Claire with a 1956 article, A Serious Problem, Birth Control. So that was the first thing that she did. Okay, but after years of desperate letters from her readers, in November of 1960, she undertook an even more radical effort. In Marie Claire, and I took this from, it's a microfilm, by the way, is how you have to read this. So I had to take a picture with my cell phone camera, a microfilm screen. But she published a call to her readers saying, help me put together the forbidden dossier. Okay. She asked readers who had any personal experience at all with an abortion or abortion in any way to send her an unvarnished, completely honest account. And she told them, don't sign your name, don't have a return address, although her collaborator said later on that they all signed their names. She lamented she wouldn't be able to publish anything about it in Marie Claire, but she did promise to write a report, and she would bring it to what she said, powerful personalities who determine your fate. So that was her goal, was she'd write a report, and she was pretty well connected. And she thought she'd get about 50 letters. She got 581 letters. And the result was that in 1962, 9 years before this manifesto, she published The Black Book of Abortion, it's called. Okay, Le Livre Noir. She wrote the preface called The Silence of Death and briefly introduced each chapter, which she divided up between married women, single women, so on and so forth. And there were men that wrote to her as well. But otherwise, she would set out each chapter and she let the women speak for themselves. She just included large excerpts from their letters. So the letters testified to some 2,960 abortions. 220 of the cases ended up in the hospital. 82 of the women that were written about in these letters had died. And she was blown away by the magnitude of the suffering, compared her book to Daniel Defoe's Journal of the Plague Year, which I think we can all relate to. Each chapter consisted of excerpts from the letters, from a couple of sentences to a full page. She let the women tell their stories, starting with married women, many of whom said that they had children but couldn't afford another one, didn't have space for another child. Housing was in real short supply at that point. Some of them described alcoholic or abusive husbands. Some of them had medical conditions that would make pregnancy extremely risky. Some of them had children with disabilities to care for. The book went on to widows, unmarried women, divorced women, and in a number of cases, the women made it clear that their husbands demanded that they have the abortion. And again, one of the things that Auclair includes in this book is a conversation that she had with a priest about the anguish and fear women have month by month, not knowing if a pregnancy could come along and sort of turn their lives upside down. She said that with the contraception illegal and abortion illegal, that stress, she said, pushed some women into serious depression. And at that, the priest shrugged his shoulders and said, well, you know, all women are more or less hysterical anyway. She was furious. And she said, how do you think men would respond if every month they had to live in fear of a pregnancy that could upend their lives? So another chapter called The Museum of Horrors included stories about fetuses in a jar, in the refrigerator, stuffed into a shoebox. One correspondent, and this is the one, wrote about her friend who died, saying, you know, I listened to the blood going glug, glug, glug as she bled out after a botched abortion. So she kept her original promise. In the appendix, she included responses to 16 of the prominent people to whom she had sent the manuscript, including a former prime minister, some medical doctors, a film director, journalists, a Catholic canon, and a female mater. I'm not sure why, but she also sent her letter to the chief of French polar expeditions, which was a big thing at the time, Paul-Émile Victor, and he wrote back saying, if I could lend any weight at all to your initiative, you have my unreserved support. Okay, so what impact did this book have? Well, Auclair complained that Fayard, her publisher, which is a major and still existing French publisher, did not have the audacity to launch the book. She was contacted by a German publisher. They were planning to translate the book, and they said, send us all your press clippings. And she said, there were no press clippings, right? And she said, you might launch the book on the theme, the book the French press didn't dare to talk about. And again, the laws would have made it difficult for them to do so. Okay. Now, historians have differed on the impact of this book. Not that many copies were sold, given that it wasn't launched or publicized. Some said, well, it went right to the pulp mill, but others seem to think that it did have an impact because a couple of additional studies came out in the years that followed. And I would say basically her willingness to take on the issue did sort of crack the door open a little bit to a wider discussion. In November of '62, Auclair was actually interviewed on television. A big thing in France to this day are television interviews about books, and I mean serious books. So if you've spent any time in France, these are really big, and they date back to this period of time. So she was interviewed on this television show in November of 1962. And she said that one of the things that bothered her is for a really long time, she'd been shocked at the dismissive attitude of people who said, well, abortion's not really a big deal. It's not a big social issue. And so that's one of the things that motivated her to launch her appeal. Is it a big deal? She wanted to find out, so she put out the appeal. And she was overwhelmed by the anguish and didn't feel she could keep that to herself. So she saw the letters as an SOS from women that she couldn't keep to herself. So, but she had all this material. She decides, I'm going to publish it as a book, not just keep it private. She couldn't find a publisher. The first publisher consulted a team of lawyers and said, no way. Several publishers turned her down. She just wanted to order a copy of the manuscript. Remember, this is before photocopy machines. And the copier said, there's absolutely no possibility that I copy such a thing. So she finally got this major publisher, Fayard, to agree to publish the book, but as she mentioned, they refused to launch it or promote it. So she said on television that she left the letters intact. What she didn't include were the description of the methods that were used. She described it as atrocious methods of an amazing variety. The richness of a desperate woman's imagination reaches a dizzying point. She pointed out that 3/4 of the letters came from married women, many of whom already had 3 or 4 children, and said, often a woman who is overwhelmed by daily life, facing a difficult financial situation, living in substandard housing, just cannot take anymore. She was asked about how people responded after the divorce, and after the abortion, and she said the responses ranged from guilt to mostly relief. Asked if women hesitated before going ahead, she said women don't have the time. They can't afford to hesitate, or it'll be too late. As for the risks involved, Auclair said for a lot of women that what they said is the only other option was suicide. Some husbands had threatened to leave, as I mentioned, if their wives had the baby. But as to fear of the procedure or fear of the legal consequences, she said 0 response to that. She said there was 1 letter in the 581 that testified to any concern about the illegality. She was asked if women had anything, all these women had anything in common, and she was very clear. When a woman has made the decision, nothing can stop her. And what motivated her to publish book? Again, she said, it's what I call the silence of death. To her, that represented an abominable wound that spreads out around the world that currently is an atrocious plague. Nobody talked about abortion, and it's through silence that all of this grows and takes on monumental proportions. And the interview closed with the plain the plain image of the book at the end of the interview. Okay, so, given her popularity and her association with Marie Claire, I think that it was an important first step towards opening up some kind of discussion. Her interventions were head-on. She also was interviewed on television in a sort of group talk show where she took on the Archbishop of Paris about birth control, and that interview is a scream, yeah. I don't have time to cover it here, but I didn't know an eyebrow could go up as high as her eyebrow went up whenever he'd spout some whatever platitude. Okay, so I do think that it had played some role in the legalization of birth control and abortion. Birth control, as I mentioned, 1967, abortion 1975. Does it have anything to tell us today? Because I know I do history, and I love history. Maybe you guys like it, but everyone's like, well, what does that have to tell us for today? And I do see there's some similarity going on right now, because for decades, the noise that we heard about abortion was from the anti-abortion groups, right, the right to life. And on the other side, the groups that pushed back talked about the right to choose, but not specifically about abortion rights in particular, right? And I think that that is what's changed right now under the post-Roe period of time. I think there's a willingness to talk about this explicitly, not to avoid the word and sort of skirt around it by talking about the right to choose. And so I think maybe that's a stage that we have to go through. We need to keep talking. We need to keep voting. And I will close and take questions, but I'll close with what the French soldiers in World War I on the front lines had this thing that they would say to each other when things got really desperate. And the French use this term all the time, courage, courage. Courage, on les aura. Courage, we'll get them. So I'll close with that. Happy to take questions. Yeah. Do we have time for? Okay. Okay.
Hello. One comment, one question. I've been to piggyback on the thing in here, United States, ever since the post-Dobbs decision, I've been noticing there's been many pro-abortion rights candidates and ballot initiatives winning red rural areas after red rural areas. So that's given me hope. But my question is, you said that the death penalty for abortion and birth control came about in 1943. That's when France was under occupation by Nazi Germany. Did the fact did Nazi Germany, like the government, have anything to do with it? And if not, how did that come about despite the fact that they were under occupation?
Okay, so they were occupied by Germany. The northern 2/3 of France were occupied by Germany, but France had its own independent government that moved from Paris, which is occupied, to the city of Vichy, which is why we call it Vichy. It was called the French state. It had been the Third Republic, but this new government was called the French state, but we all call it Vichy. And it was one of the points that has been made starting in 1972 with my hero, Robert Paxson. This was not a puppet regime. This was not the policies that it passed, including the very first anti-Semitic laws in 1940, in October of 1940, had nothing to do with Germany. This was a group that came out of the long tradition of anti-republicanism in France, a sort of a conservative far right that hated the fact that there was a republic, starting with the French Revolution. This kind of strand goes from the French Revolution through, then you have the Bourbon followers, that's the first kings of France, the Louis, and then you have the Orleanists, who, there was a cousin that was on the throne for a while, and then you have the Bonapartists who follow Napoleon. So you've got these strands of people that want basically a monarchy kind of government and hate republic, hate democracy, hate the notion of liberty, equality, fraternity, that kind of thing. So that's the impulse to creating this government, and as soon as they take power, they bring about policies that they've been wanting for decades, for centuries. At least a century, including the abortion regulations, all kinds of anti-Semitic laws, shut down trade unions, closed down political parties, all kinds of things that they took action on, not because the Germans demanded it, but out of their own impulses. Okay. I'm sorry, there was somebody over here.
I'll pass this back.
Okay.
That was excellent. I really appreciate
Oh,
it.
thank
You know,
you.
for a dude that doesn't read stuff like this, you know.
Thank you.
It was powerful.
I like
and,
that. Thank you.
Yeah, a lot of info that I have not heard. You probably touched on this, but what is, in France now, what is the law?
The law is, I think, 15 weeks. When it was first legalized, I think it was 12 weeks, but I think it's gone up to 15 weeks. And I believe that, I know that there are, if there's a medical reason to have one later after that, that's also legal. So if there's any time, ever a medical issue, then the doctors can practice the best medicine and do what they need to do. But
Hi. First, an observation. I find it interesting that in France, there were conservatives who expressed anti-republicanism as opposed to conservatism in this country.
right, which is sort of moving a little bit more in that direction, right?
Okay, so
Right.
I have a couple of questions. My first one is your book available in an electronic version?
I'm hoping it will be. It's not done yet, so
Okay.
it's not available in any version at this point, but
Oh,
I do
okay.
hope that they'll do a simultaneous
So then I
version.
would suggest that in the process of doing that, you investigate the possibility of an audible version as well. The reason I bring that
Okay.
up is because my eyesight is failing,
Okay.
and
okay.
I have discovered that though I don't read
Audiobooks.
as much as I used to, Audible is really
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, I know, it's really, and when you're in the car or whatever, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. I will bring it up with the publisher the next time I'm in touch with them. That's an excellent
And
point.
what was the other one? So I was in a rush to get here today, and
Me too.
I forgot my hearing aids. I was late as usual, and I forgot my hearing aids. So there were things that you said that I couldn't quite hear.
You're
couldn't
welcome to
quite
come up.
make
If there's specific details, you're welcome to come up afterwards, and I'm happy
Okay.
to answer any
Yeah,
questions.
I'll do that
Okay.
because I want to think about the questions that I have.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure, no problem. I'll be happy to do that. And we had some people here. We have Verena. Oh.
Thank you. I can't make a question out of this. I was living in France in a boarding school during 61, 62, and I'm appalled.
Yeah,
I heard nothing.
right,
But I mean, I was
You-
a teenager.
you- yeah.
I was a late teenager.
yeah,
But I'm appalled.
yeah. You're welcome.
Are copies of Le Livre Noir de l'Avortement still
I
available?
I found one online and purchased it, so I
Okay.
have, that may be where the picture comes from. Oh, no, that one comes from the National Library, BNF.
Okay. And are they available in English or translations as well?
That book has not been translated. Like I said, it was published in very few copies, and many of them were pulped. And you could that's true. You could probably find it in German. I think at least yeah, that's a point. The German publisher was going to publish it. I hope it went through. That's good. Yeah.
The publication of Le Deuxième Sexuel, did that have any impact on this whole conversation?
The Second Sex by Simone de Beauvoir, 1949. I don't know, again, conversation was very restricted because of the law. So obviously, these issues come up in Beauvoir's book, but the discussion that comes from her book is not centered on this issue in particular. She's arguing that, that women have been the second sex, that man is the standard, woman's the one that's compared, so she opens up discussion about the relative relationship of men and women, but not particularly about abortion. Yeah. And
Hi, thank you so much.
thank you.
That was a lovely talk. Really
thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
Thank you.
Was Vichy linked to the Vatican, and was religion a big part of this whole thing?
Religion was a big part of this. Directly linked, no, but very, very pro-Catholic. In fact, one of the things, so the big fight in France for decades had been about the schools. Public schools were secular, no religion, absolutely out. You could go to a Catholic school, but, and one of the things that Vichy did is to institute, a Christian, Catholic teaching in the public schools. So that was obviously one of the things that they were concerned about, very, very strongly, Catholic influenced government. So that's why I say they were not, I wouldn't call Vichy fascist. I would just call it ultra-conservative. They didn't have the sort of single party, young men marching in lockstep kind of thing going. They tried to create youth groups, but they were pretty pathetic, and most of the kids were not interested. I mean, the funny thing to me is, you read about Vichy and all these policies, and then you go into the archives, and I'm looking at court records. And what I'm hearing is, some guy, what happens is that they're out, a French cop and a German cop are controlling traffic, looking for stolen stuff. And the window opens in an apartment building, and they all are, you pigs, collaborator pigs. And then the cops come knocking on the door. It's like you hear all of this underneath. There's a lot of anti-Vichy stuff going on that you wouldn't know because it's not appearing in the newspapers, right? Those are controlled. But yeah, there were a lot of people who were not happy with this. Again, France had been divided between this left and far left, and not far left, but the Republican middle to the far left and the far right. And when you get to the 1890s, when you get to the turn of the 20th century and into the 20th century, you add the fascists to the mix. But they move together as they did in Germany, but they're not the same. Yeah.
Well, I think this country was following France, or France was following this country at about that time. In the late 50s, I had a summer job while I was in college in downtown Detroit in a hospital in a very low-income area. Most of our clients and some of our doctors spoke Polish or Italian.
Immigrant.
And we had 3 functions: to be the neighborhood physician, or to take all the heart surgeries that the big hospitals refused because they were too risky. So we did lose a lot, and those were people that knew the risk. And we also, in our emergency room, got a lot of botched abortion patients that were near death or died. And I asked the director of nursing about one who was one of our own nurses and almost died. And I said, what did she do to herself? And she said, child, I am not going to tell you. Only a girl from the streets of Hamtramck could have done to herself what she did. And then, I married and I moved to Houston, and I had a couple of kids. And then my husband's female cousin got pregnant out of wedlock and came to us for help. So I asked my obstetrician whether he could recommend any abortions, and they were still illegal. And he said, 20 years ago, I would have refused to tell you. He said, but I've seen too many women suffer from butchers. And he wrote down the name of the best abortionist in town, which I thought was pretty great.
Yeah.
So I want to know, too, this present courageous lady, Giselle is her name, is...
The one I'm talking about? Marcelle?
No.
Oh,
I'm talking about the one right now whose
okay.
husband drugged her.
Oh.
Yes, that should bring up a lot of talk about women's rights.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, no, it is. So that's the case of the woman whose husband for decades drugged her and let other men come in and have sex with her while she was knocked out. And she, rather than being anonymous, she wanted to be, her name was out there. Yeah, she's testified openly about it, and it has been a big shock, I would say. I haven't been there since this all came out, but I'm sure that there are a lot of sort of horrified discussions going on about that. Yeah. So.
Any other questions?
No? Okay, well, thank you, guys. This was really fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing topic and very informative and very necessary. And congratulations on your book. We'll look forward to hearing more and reading it, right? All right, real quick, I just want to mention a couple of things, and then we'll hear 2 more songs. Once again, I kind of quickly said picnic in the park, but I'd like to be sure we all heard picnic in the park at Herman Park on October 20th. And we're looking forward to, hopefully we'll have a little cooler weather by that time. And Verena, can you come up and make your pitch?
Sure.
Thank you.
So first of all, thank you very much for all of you who have submitted recipes. Emily is working really heavily on putting it all together in a wonderful cookbook, so thank you very much for that. And I'm unfortunately not done asking for favors. We are preparing for a fundraising and social day here on November 10th. And one other thing we would love for you all to contribute is, part of this is going to be a silent auction. So if you have items that you think might be very desirable by other people in the community, we're shooting for a value of $20 and up. If you wouldn't mind bringing them in over the next few weeks, last day to provide something would be November 3rd. We'll have a little black plastic box sitting by the welcome, in the welcome area there. But really looking forward to items to contribute to the silent auction that we can help our community grow more prosperous and have more things for all of us going on. So if you have any questions, let me know, and looking forward to it. Thank you.
And having done a lot of silent auctions in the past, this will be really exciting. You can also put a little basket of items together if you want to, that are on a theme or something like that, that make up $20 or more. So if you have a few little bath soap, this, that, and the other, all brand new. And anyway, I teach high school. You have to tell people that. Anyway. All right, we will hear 2 more songs from Chelsea, Beech, and I don't know your partner.
I know, it was brought to my attention in the hallway that I did a pretty bad job at introducing this guy, didn't I? This is Charles Peters, and he's releasing a lot of music right now. So we're gonna do a song of mine called "Naked in a Garden" that's actually gonna be coming out this Tuesday. So if you guys could do me a favor, whoa, see, do the favor, all right? If you can go onto my Instagram, there's a little link at the top of my Instagram page, and you can click that link, and it'll automatically get you the song as soon as it comes out. So that would be great. And there's a little sexy video too. So Yeah. to be naked in a garden, soak up all the sun till it dries out on my skin, turns me right to dust. Wanna hold him in my arms, let him know he's loved, fall asleep together and enjoy waking up. I wanna, oh, I wanna, oh, I wanna, I want to be held up to the light, look through to my bones, tell me what you see and what you like and what you don't. I wanna, oh, I wanna, oh, I wanna, yeah, it's a lie if they say that in life that you'll only die once. I've got more that's left on it of me than one. But I want to be naked in a garden, soak up all the sun till it dries out on my skin, turns me right to dust. Wanna hold him in my arms, make him know he's loved, fall asleep together and enjoy waking up. I wanna, oh, I wanna, oh, I wanna, babe, don't wait, don't hesitate. There's something great, it's so amazing. One more step and you won't make it. You can feel it, you can taste it. All your dreams are coming true. There's nothing left but love for you. Just, oh, just, I want to be naked in a garden, soak up all the sun till it dries out on my skin, turns me right to dust. Wanna hold him in my arms, let him know he's loved, fall asleep together and we fall asleep together and we, oh, I wanna, oh, I wanna, Thank you so much.
A lot of the rules have been changed. The local rabble is deathly afraid. And maybe we'll have a lesson tonight if we can get it straight and get our loans paid. And maybe we need some advice, something unpleasant presented nice. And out of the head and a roll of the dice. I twitch my leg as I glance at the clock. I'm breaking down as I start and I stop. how I feel if I never get caught. And ear to the sky and a hole in my sock. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. It's orange and it's red and it's yellow and it's gray. I will try not to be hostile today. What will I do and what will I say? I nod and agree, but I do not believe. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. That was wonderful. And be sure to go on our Instagram and download
Pray,
the
please.
little as soon as it drops. That'll be really fun. That was beautiful.
So my name, I should have just spelled it Beech, like the beach, because I confuse everybody. But it's Beech, and it's just my name, at Chelsea Beech. Yeah, you can
All
find
right.
it on iTunes and all that too. It'll be there. It'll be there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, my name's in the program.
Okay, great. Well, everybody do that because, we're going to support our artists. Anyway, so a couple of more things. We have Pride coming up. We have Pride Makerspace tomorrow night at the Flying Saucer in Sugarland, and it's on your thing. They're going to be putting swag together for the two prides coming up, which are the Woodlands Pride Festival on October 12th and Katy Pride Festival on Saturday, October 19th. And so that's a lot of really good work we're getting done in the community. Lunch will be at Weights and Measures Restaurant, 2808 Caroline Street. It's about 6 minutes from here, about a mile and a third. We are so lucky to be down here at the Montrose Center because there are so many great restaurants that we're getting a chance to try and have our time together. Sarah has said she would answer questions you might have. Are you going to go to lunch, or are you just going to be here? Well, she'll be here, and then you may see her at lunch, but you'll have time to talk to her then. Next week, we're going to have Rachel Sears. We'll be talking about the Woods Project. Then we'll have a showing of the Humane Prison Hospice Project. Sorry, my reading is not. And next week is our potluck, very popular potluck. Bring your own lunch. Just a reminder to bring it. We're going to have a table in the back so we can put the lunches here. Don't keep them in your car so we will know what we have and know how many pizzas we need to order because we don't want to over-order or under-order, okay? And that is you can bring your own lunch. You can bring stuff to share. However you want to do it is fine. And everybody's welcome. One last reminder, free thought isn't necessarily free. It's really kind of expensive, but well worth it. And so if you can donate, if you can give something towards our, because it costs about $25 a person, isn't it? $25 a person on average attendance to keep us running. And there's lots of, Tim and Emily went over that. But if you can, please donate. If you can't, that's okay. Come anyway. We want you here. That's the most important thing. But if you can, please do. And there's ways to donate right here. As I'm closing, I want to thank all the people that come here in the morning to set this up. And because, I always say, I'm a theater teacher, so I always say, when the technicians are doing their job, it's invisible. And so they can be invisible, but they're not invisible. They're hard workers. The coffee, that, David, everybody, thank you so much for coming early. Kevin. It's, they're invisible. This is good, but they're not invisible. They're in our hearts. Thank you so much. Does anyone have anything to share before I close? I would remind you to think about CB as Kevin's getting him home from the hospital today. Oh, I have something to share. Hang on, let me grab my card. Most of you know I have a new job at Houston Christian High School, and I will be assistant directing Joseph in the amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And I would love all of you to come if you want to. It's going to be wonderful. It's Kempwood, and I am Beltway 8. I'm having an amazing time working with amazing people, and so if you want to come out, that would be great. I have the card down there if you want to take a picture of it, and it's coming up. Any other things? Huh? Oh, I'm sorry, it is. Oh, yeah, I do, of course I do. November 7th and 8th at 7, November 9th at 5, which is a Saturday, which makes it nice because you can, still, yes. What? Okay, let me finish this. November 14th and 15th at 7, and November 16th again at 5. So please plan to come if you want to and see a very nice show. All right.
Hello, everybody. I just want to make an announcement that we are still needing some volunteers. So if any of you guys want to volunteer, we have everything from our setup, our breakdown teams, our technical teams, our media, our marketing, a lot. So if you have time skills, we are very, very happy to have you guys. So you can just find me or email board@HoustonOasis.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we do need more help, especially if you're really good, at media or things like that. We could use some more people that help us with all that stuff that somebody of my generation knows very little about, but enjoys. Anyway, all right. Well, with that, we're going to dismiss and see you guys next week. Have a wonderful week. Thank you.
Put on your favorite dress. He didn't like that.